Well, good afternoon, everyone. We are happy to have you for the second of our Alumni Insights webinar series, a new program started in the College of Arts and Sciences and brought to you by the University at Buffalo for all of our alumni. My name is Thomas McArthur. I'm the Director of Constituent and Alumni Engagement for the College of Arts and Sciences, and I am so pleased to be joined by Eileen Maher, a graduate of the University at Buffalo, who is going to share with us some just wonderful information. This is the time of year, I think, the beginning of the year, January, February, is when people get really active and into eating healthy and exercise. And then mostly kind of fall off a little bit. And so we figured, well, why not host an event here in April for alumni all across the globe and use one of our alumni experts to share with us advice, tips, and tricks on how to remain healthy, how to eat healthy, how to prepare food, etc. So I know you're going to be in for a great program for today. I do want to mention that this event is co-sponsored by our colleagues in the Young Alumni Office, the Young Alumni Programs for Alumni Relations, and also the School of Public Health and Health Professions as well. We also chose this week because it's National Public Health Week, and the University at Buffalo School of Public Health is doing a lot of activities and events throughout the course of this week and the entire month, actually. And so one program they have is the Step Up Challenge, which is encouraging all of our alumni to walk as many steps as they can throughout the course of a day. You can follow hashtag UBSteps16 for more information on the program. So we are going to jump right in. I want to introduce Eileen, but also let you all know that if you have questions, feel free to tweet them to @UBCAS, or you can include them in the chat box, which is right to the right-hand side of your screen. We're glad you could all join us. So Eileen Maher she currently works as a clinical dietitian for the U.S. Navy at the Naval Medical Center in Portsmouth, Virginia. She is a 2012 graduate of the School of Public Health and Health Professions, where she earned her BS and MS degrees in exercise science and nutrition. Eileen, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you. I also do want to mention that, here I am in snowy Buffalo, New York, where it's relatively cold here in April. And Eileen, you are in Virginia, where it's nice, sunny, and warm.
Yeah, it's about like 70 degrees and sunny. It feels great.
I feel like it's a little easier to be, to exercise outside when it's 70 degrees and sunny as opposed to 23 and snowy. But we'll leave that for the gym. Great. So Eileen, let's start. Let's jump right in. One of the biggest issues that most people have with eating healthy is, the inability to prepare food ahead of time. And can you talk to us a little bit about the importance of food preparation and then also nutritional snacking ideas?
Yes. So actually, prepping ahead of time as much as possible kind of saves you time and heartache in the long run. So one of the biggest things I like to do is start by looking ahead in your week, find a couple of recipes that you can prepare ahead of time. Making lists when you're going grocery shopping is a big one. Get everything you need for those recipes. And then one thing that I like to do is make sure I prep ahead by making sure that I have nice healthy snacks to grab and go and have for the week. Things come in prepackaged, pre-cut, pre-washed veggies, things like that. Use those to your advantage when you can.
Perfect. Now, I have seen some of those relatively expensive prepackaged cut up apples, prepackaged celery. What other alternatives do you use? I mean, those are great if you have the resources, but most of the folks in our Young Alumni Program, are looking at inexpensive ways for how to stay healthy. What are some of the alternatives that you personally use?
I like to refer to them as the original superfoods. They're the grab and goes, like the apple, banana, orange, clementines, and some of them, like the apples and the clementines, you could just grab one, put it in your backpack, and when you need it, it's there. You didn't need to really do anything other than give it a nice quick wash beforehand. Another one of my favorites are dry cereals. Pre-measured, of course, in a little to-go bag with one serving. Those are great because they're fortified. So they're fortified with vitamins, minerals, including iron and B vitamins. They're great.
Fantastic. Now, you talked a little bit about portion sizes and portion control. I mean, I have been known to, take a bag of trail mix, and probably what you're suggesting is a snack size bag, and I take the 3 cups and make sure that there are the chocolate chips in there as well. Probably not the most healthy options. Talk to me a little bit about those portion sizes and control.
Yeah. So with those high calorie snacks like trail mix is great. You got some protein, carbs, a little bit of a treat in there. It's not going to be the end of the world. But for something like that, you do want to be mindful of portion size. Typically about a quarter cup, which would put you in like the 150, 200 calorie range.
Okay.
I know they're making some really nice plastic baggies actually with pre-marked measurements and little to-go tubs.
Okay. Now, do you typically have a day of the week that you get all your shopping done? Do you usually shop for a week at a time, a few days at a time, 2 weeks at a time? Talk to us a little bit about kind of your shopping patterns.
Typically, I go shopping at like 9 o'clock at night on a Monday or Tuesday to avoid any sort of craziness. Especially, I remember going to Wegmans and everyone would be there on Sunday for Bills games prep. But that's one thing I like to do. But, if you have that list ahead of time and you know what you're going to make, you can really just kind of pop in whenever, the week affords you. So I guess like as prepared as you can be, it just kind of makes everything a little more smoother.
Okay. I do. I kind of want to come back to those grocery lists and ask if there are some websites that you might use or recommend that, maybe are useful for people who are just getting started. So I'll come back to those a little bit later. So we've kind of talked a little bit about the food, snacking, portion sizes, all of those great things. Now let's get to sleep, which is something that I find I have a difficult time getting the recommended amounts of sleep as a young professional or a younger professional. I find I'm constantly on the go, as I think most people are, and you end up getting 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep, sometimes less, and then on the weekends probably binging on your sleep. Talk to us a little bit about what are the right amounts of sleep that we should be targeting for, and maybe a little bit about your routine as you kind of sink into your nighttime sleeping pattern.
Actually, sleep's a big one, and that's something I'm personally working on, so I can speak to that. Young adults and adults, so we're looking at an age group between 18 to 64, are recommended to have 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. That's according to the National Sleep Foundation. Which, I'm sure there's grad students in there that are about to have a heart attack. So obviously do the best you can. Again, in terms of you got to make health a priority. I know for me, when I'm studying, it gets to the point where nothing else is going to be retained, nothing, productivity is being affected. That might be when you start to consider extra half hour and then build up from there. For me personally, I like to make sure I'm exercising as often as possible, because that makes you good and tired and ready to go to bed. And I've also been watching my caffeine intake. So I'm starting to realize that I can't have caffeine at 5 p.m. with dinner and expect to go to bed at 9:30, 10 when I should be going. But yes, also one thing to consider is about a half hour before bedtime, kind of have a normal bedtime routine. Another great time for some other healthy habits like brushing your teeth, flossing, maybe some light stretching, some meditation, but kind of shifting away from TV time, screen time, things that are going to get you wired and thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm guilty of this, so I'll raise my hand. But sleeping with your cell phone next to your bed. Using it, I use it as an alarm clock, but I find that, in the middle of the night when I can't sleep, I end up picking it up and checking messages and emails. I mean, tell us how horrible that is for you. And, what should you do? Should you leave it in the other room, put it in, another area?
It's something I recently started. I went back to my actually original UB dorm room alarm clock. I'm using that and not using my phone, and I keep my phone charging in another room.
And have you noticed some type of difference in your sleeping?
I will sleep better through the night, which I can't, it's not a scientific study. It's just what I've personally found. But it did kind of eliminate the 2 a.m. Instagram check, which I think you're alluding to.
Of course. Or checking my friend's Snapchat's accounts at 2 a.m., which nothing good happens after midnight on Snapchat, so you should just
highly entertaining, but yeah.
It's interesting. We have someone on the chat box who's asked 7 to 9 hours. Can we extend the day to 27 hours? I think we all would enjoy that, but unfortunately, no magic there.
No.
And talk to us a little bit about, some folks say, oh, I can operate great on 4 hours of sleep, but what are some of the negative health risks or, components to operating on the less than amount of sleep that you should get?
So when we're not getting those optimal levels of sleep, studies have shown that we are at increased risk for obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure. Then that's putting you at risk for heart attack, stroke, things like that. And then there's also some interesting research showing that lack of sleep will affect food choice. So when you're not sleeping as well, you're stressed. You're more likely to choose those comfort foods, high calorie foods, kind of in like a survival mode, I guess you could say. You're ready to just grab anything for energy to just get through it. So those are kind of things to weigh.
That's great. Now we are going to get. Oh, let's see. I think we have a question. I've got a couple questions here. Many of my colleagues have begun using energy drinks like Spark at work instead of coffee and tea. Do you feel this is a healthy replacement? Do you have any concerns about some of these, maybe products that label themselves as healthy, and how can you distinguish whether they're a good option for you?
Personally, I'm not a big fan of supplements. I honestly would prefer, taking a break from work, go climb a set of stairs, get your heart rate up. That's, going to energize you as much, I think, personally, from my opinion, than any sort of, supplement, because you're not entirely sure what's in it. Tea, coffee, in moderation, moderate use. Again, we're not talking every hour here. Those are things that I prefer.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, please keep posting your questions. We will look forward to continuing to take them throughout the course of the webinar here. So we've looked at analyzing the relationship between, sleep and health and food. Now let's get to that the dreaded 6-letter word, stress. Talk to us about how stress impacts what we're discussing here today.
So again, stress does influence our food choices. You're more likely to, again, go for those comfort foods, which tend to be higher calorie, higher fat. And certain foods like omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, those tend to provide us with longer lasting energy and may mitigate those negative factors associated with stress. Stress kind of increases inflammation and puts you not in an ideal state overall. So those kind of omega-3s, fruits, vegetables, whole grains kind of put you in a good place to better combat those stressors.
Okay, and we've got a question from the audience here. Can you explain what people mean when they use the term empty calories? You're talking a little bit, about how you monitor your caloric intake. What do people mean by that?
So empty calories, when you're looking at a food that contains very little nutritional value. So you have all these calories in a soft drink per se, but you're not getting any sort of nutrition from it.
Okay.
So they're calories that aren't providing any. There's no bang for your buck.
Okay. So those are, probably soft drinks, alcohol, those, say that again?
The candy.
Candy. Well, I certainly feel good after I enjoy some candy, but I think you're right. There's not a whole lot of nutritional value that comes from that.
Unfortunately.
I'm going to go for another question here. If you're trying to watch your weight, are there any food combinations to avoid and ones that should be encouraged? Maybe protein, carbs, those. I think that's what the person's getting at.
Anytime you're looking at your diet, you just want to make sure that there's balance and moderation. Any sort of specifics, I definitely recommend you go speak with a dietitian. I know there's one on staff at UB, so that's a great resource. But just in general, load up your diet with whole grains, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, lower fat dairy, and that'll get you started.
You talked about, going to see a nutritionist. How do you find someone? I mean, there are websites, or you kind of just Google search nutritionists in Buffalo, and how do you kind of make sure that person is certified or qualified to be giving advice?
Yes. So dietitians are actually, we have to go through a specific set of trainings, specific standards for schooling, and kind of like a residency internship program, so we have experience. You can find dietitians on eatright.org. That's the registered dietitian credentialing websites. They have actually some really great information there as well, but that's where you can go and search and find a registered dietitian in your area. But Wellness Education Services is a great resource for those active UB students.
That's fantastic. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit also about kind of the being at work and how to kind of prepare. I mean, I know that just about everyone has, those incredibly busy days that sometimes you find yourself not really able to even eat lunch until 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. How do you try to, combat that? What do you do personally to prepare, for those days? How does your mental focus change? And then what do you do in the mornings to get ready for those type of marathon days?
So when I know a day is going to be like that, I try to pack a lunch. I wouldn't even call it a lunch though, like in the traditional sense that there's a sandwich and this, that, and the other thing. I pack them in bits. So I'll have like a bag of tomatoes, and when I have a chance, I'll eat those. And a bag, a little thing of hummus and crackers, so I can have that when I have 5 minutes. So kind of as much as you can set aside time for lunch, which doesn't always happen, but kind of breaking up lunch to meet those little breaks that you will have.
Okay. Yeah, and what are some of those kind of your favorite go-to snacks? Or some healthy lunch options. I mean, when you bring your lunch most days, what does that consist of? Give us some examples.
I'm a big fan of salads. Can kind of mix them all up. I get a face here.
You didn't catch that my face was not necessarily something I love to, but I have a salad for today, so I was good.
Also, I am a big fan of leftovers.
Okay.
I also like to make kind of casserole, like healthier casserole dishes loaded with vegetables and lean proteins, kind of like quinoa little bowls, I guess you could say. Instead of going and getting them at the store, I'll make enough for the week and just kind of put it in a little to-go container and then heat that up when I'm at work.
Okay.
Soup in the wintertime. You guys are cold in Buffalo. It's a great one.
Yeah,
also vegetable based. Add some more vegetables if you'd like.
Great. Someone asked, you mentioned salads, of course. So what do you add to your salads to make them more interesting and to kind of switch them up on a daily basis?
Okay. My recipes for salads typically are some sort of dark leafy green, a nice lean protein source, and then I like to add something that's crunchy and then maybe something that's sweet, so some sort of a dried fruit. One that I've been doing lately is my own take on a caprese salad. It's spinach. I'll actually put some basil leaves in it
Oh,
too. Sliced Roma tomatoes, chicken breast, and mozzarella cheese.
oh, very nice. And someone also suggested craisins and walnuts as well. Someone from the chat box. So those
Good one.
sound like some great options. Um, what about if you have to travel for work? I know myself, I end up traveling quite often, and it can be really difficult, when you're on planes, trains, and automobiles, to eat healthy, to find a restaurant that has good options when you're on the go. Can you talk to us maybe a little bit about some strategies?
Sure. Actually, my previous job, I was traveling a lot to Texas, of all places. Love Texas, but it's definitely a healthy eating pitfall. There's some great food there. Um, one thing that I like to do is, and I understand I worked for a corporate wellness company, so they allowed this. When I could, is I'd find a hotel that had a little fridge,
Okay.
and I'd go when I got wherever I was going and get some healthy snacks or some yogurts were a big one. Breakfasts that are healthy, lower in fat, higher in protein and fiber that I could make on my own. So I wasn't going to grab a breakfast sandwich somewhere, or eggs and bacon, or the cinnamon buns that are in, the lobby on your way out, things like that. And then I'm a big foodie. Dietitians typically love food, so ask around. I always find that locals always know the best places to go. And last time I was in Texas, we found a whole chain dedicated to salads. So
Really?
the options are there. It's just a matter of kind of putting the research in and finding them.
Yeah, it's interesting. We actually have a UB graduate who runs a chain it's called Chopped in Washington, D.C., and it may be in other areas, but it's a salad chain. It's absolutely fantastic. All great options to spice up just your typical salad. A couple more questions here I want to take from the chat room here. A couple people have asked about buying organic food. What are the benefits to buying organic food? Is it a gamble since organic food can be certified organic, but using pesticides that are not on the ban list? So, talk to us a little bit about your philosophy on organic food.
That's like you could talk all day on that. Personally, though, I tend to go by the list of the Dirty Dozen. I forget who puts it out. But there's a list of fruits and vegetables that are more likely to be affected by pesticides in a greater proportion, you could say. So there's a list of foods to avoid non-organically and foods that are okay. One rule that I do tend to go by is if it's a food that you're eating a lot of, maybe you want to consider purchasing that organically as your budget allows.
Okay.
Otherwise, you could drive yourself absolutely crazy.
Okay, great advice. Another question. Are vitamin supplements important? And do you recommend a daily vitamin? How does that impact your healthy living?
It's a very individually based kind of recommendation. If you're eating a good, I usually recommend everyone eat a good healthy diet. If they have any other questions, speak specifically to a dietitian or have a chat with your provider. But you should be having annual physicals anyway, so go and stop in and say hi.
I can say an annual physical is not usually on the top of my list to go to go see the doctor. Another question about protein shakes, juice cleanses, all of those types of things. What are your? I mean, I'll be honest. I've used like a protein shake as a meal replacement, like a breakfast in
Mhm.
the morning. Is that a good idea? Bad idea? What nutritional value that's represented there?
Again, that kind of depends on individual needs, schedules. I am a big fan of getting my nutrients from some real food sources. So you don't necessarily need to have those things, but there are cases where it could be warranted. Um, but in terms of getting the same amount of nutrients, you can get the same amount of nutrients typically at a cheaper price from eating some real food.
Okay. For your typical breakfast, what does that look like? I'm just wondering. I mean, is it
Yeah,
oatmeal, eggs?
I'm a big oatmeal fan, so I'll do. Actually, I've been doing overnight oats a lot because it's kind of I prep it ahead of time, and then I have my little mason jars in the fridge ready to roll. With a protein source, I tend to add either peanut butter or almond butter, and lots of fruit.
Okay. And of course, with your oatmeal, you put lots of sugar, brown sugar, and milk. I'm joking. As someone noted in the comments, I'm not the ideal healthy person. That's correct. But the good thing is we're all trying, and Eileen's going to help us get to that beach body season by before summer.
Yeah, I mean, I really and truly, it's about taking one step at a time. Really take a look at what you're willing to change. Find one thing that you're going to work on. And it might not happen the first time. You might have to try several times before you make a change, and that's okay. That's awesome and totally applaudable.
That's great. I mean, and that kind of leads into another question I had. So, if people, I mean, thinking about eating healthy can be, and also adding in the exercise piece, can be overwhelming to some individuals. If there is, first off, where's a good spot to start? I mean, is it trying to go to the gym once a week, a few times a week? Is it more focusing in on the food that you're consuming? Where should someone start if they're feeling overwhelmed?
Um, I'd say take a good hard look at what you're going to find most pleasure and enjoyment in working on. So if you're highly motivated to work on exercising more and you love spending time outside, maybe that's the best route for you. And try to find some activities that you enjoy outside. But I mean, I don't think you could ever go wrong in making some sort of a healthier move for you.
Great. And someone says, I've heard that when trying to lose weight, diet is 80% and 20% is working out or being active. Is that accurate?
I mean, I don't think you could put a distinct formula that works for everybody. But again, I think if you're working and you're moving in the right direction, you're doing the right thing. I definitely though exercise, sleep, overall wellness, nutrition, all those things come into play in weight loss and just overall living a healthier life.
Great. Um, what do you think the biggest barriers are to eating healthy, and how can maybe if you can give us a couple, and then how to overcome those?
Good question. I've typically seen lack of time, maybe lack of awareness of the resources that are out there. Definitely take advantage of resources. There's some really great websites out there. Eatright.org, choosemyplate.gov, awesome resources. And I guess it does come down to not beating yourself up when you realize it takes time. It's going to take some failures before you finally succeed at something, and realize it's not about anybody else except you being more healthy.
That's absolutely a great advice there. Um, here's a question for you. I sometimes I find that I eat just to eat, or it's 6 o'clock, so I feel like I should have dinner. even if I'm not necessarily hungry. Talk to us about how do you recognize kind of the signs from your body that are telling you you're truly hungry versus and you need to eat versus I'm going to munch because I'm at home in sweatpants and it's cold outside, or it's 6 o'clock at night and I feel like I should eat dinner because that's what you should do. Can you
Mm-hmm.
talk to how do you recognize, physiologically what your body's telling you?
So, I mean, it sounds like you're talking about a little bit about, which is a great topic, mindfulness and mindful eating. Kind of getting in touch with hunger and satiety cues. When are you actually hungry? When you do eat, when do you stop? When are you actually full? Um, I tend to work on this a lot. One time I notice it is when schedules change or I'm on vacation. So you're kind of away from your normal routine. And that's when I'll notice, like, it's 1 o'clock. I'm like, wow, I'm like actually hungry. And then you think, like, when's the last time I've actually been hungry and not just, gone through the motions and just lived your routine.
Yep.
So, I mean, paying attention, is your stomach growling? Are you maybe feeling a little lightheaded? Is blood sugar getting low, which is a dangerous situation? We don't want to be there. But definitely get in touch and kind of see for yourself, because everyone's different, when it is that you're hungry. That's really great.
Perfect. Sticking kind of with diet, as you get older, do your dietary needs, there we go. Do your dietary needs change as you get older? In your 20s, is there kind of one set, 30s, 40s, 50s? I mean, I've always heard that, as you get older, your metabolism slows down. It's harder to lose weight. Everything you eat just goes right to your thighs. Is that actually true?
So nutrient needs do change throughout the life cycle. Um, Typically, energy needs do decrease, but you know, you're staying active and you're making good choices, good food choices, you can kind of combat well, I'm going to eat the way I was when I was 17 and swimming, twice a day for the swim team kind of issues. Um, but again, it's a great, great topic, and also a great opportunity to touch base with a dietitian.
That's fantastic. Now we
Right.
haven't. Go ahead, continue.
For an individualized approach, because
Okay,
things do change.
great. Now we haven't really talked a lot about water consumption. Uh, how important is that good old H2O, and how much should you be consuming on a daily basis?
Yeah, as I drink my water. Um,
See, I do have my water as well, so I'm doing good there.
um, I'm there's varying numbers out there. I tend to go by how you're feeling, and then how often you're going to the bathroom, looking at that scale of your urine compared to dehydration, well hydrated. I mean, just in general, water is a great fluid source as opposed to those sugar sweetened beverages with those empty calories,
Yep.
things like that. So definitely, it's on an individual basis. Just try to grab the water as often as you can
Okay.
over those sugary drinks.
Um, what about is it better to exercise before work, after work? Does having food in your system impact your workout routine? I mean, I always had a hard time waking up right away, drinking some water, and working out. Um, can you talk to that a little bit?
Just generally speaking, anytime you can get your workout in and you're enjoying it, that's the time to go. Um, if it works better for you that's the morning, then that's awesome, and enjoy those morning runs or whatever it is that you like. If it's going to be the afternoon, then go in the afternoon. I love to keep things simple, so you could get a little more in detail if you had different goals in mind, you're training for something, but generally speaking, it's great to exercise and fit it in where it fits.
Great. Um, I'm going to combine two questions here about exercise at work. Um, for those of us who have a desk job and who are, sedentary most of the day, do you have kind of little exercises that you do that might kind of help keep that? I mean, you mentioned going for a walk, going up and down the stairs. Anything else that you can do in your office?
There are whole workout routines for office spaces, lunges, squats, wall push-ups against a nice stable table that's not going to go anywhere, calf raises. You can get an exercise band that's super portable, and do some, overhead raises, chest presses. There's a whole bunch of exercises using those. Balance balls instead of a desk chair, and then you could kind of use that for some core exercises. And then I've actually, in my old job, kept a yoga mat in my office, and when I had some time, you don't even need that much time. 5 minutes, you can go through a couple of sun salutations, just to kind of get the heart rate up, get stretched out, get away from the desk, and get away from sitting.
Great. Now, one kind of last topic here before we go into any additional questions is this idea of Meatless Mondays. And you had mentioned that to me, and I was totally clueless about it. So talk to us about what the heck are Meatless Mondays? What are the benefits, and why should I no longer eat meat on Mondays?
So I don't want to tell you cannot eat meat on Mondays. Meatless Mondays is an initiative that came out of Johns Hopkins. The idea being that one day a week, we'd encourage people to try not to eat meat that day. So branching out into vegetable-based proteins. Because what they had found is that by eating a more plant-based diet, we're reducing environmental impacts. We're improving our health by reducing cancer risk, increasing vegetable intake, which is always a good thing. So it's just kind of something to experiment with. I don't know. Does UB do a Meatless Monday?
I'm not certain about that.
Okay.
I think, there are several dining options on campus, and so I know students have, quite the plethora of options to tap into. So I think for those students who want to stay very healthy, there's those options. And for those who were like me in undergrad, chicken fingers and French fries on a daily basis certainly was not the way to go, but sometimes that happens.
So, I mean, in that case, though, too, it would be, a kind of an incentive to branch out and try different foods, which is always a cool thing.
Certainly. So we're kind of rounding out our discussion here. Certainly appreciate Eileen taking the time, and everyone who has signed on and submitted questions. Certainly love that we have had this interactive and engaging dialogue. Eileen, I think what it comes down to is, what is kind of the one tip that if you only take one thing away from this talk, kind of the lifelong engagement, what is your one piece of advice to people for living a healthy lifestyle?
It would, again, I know I've touched on it a couple of times, is being gentle with yourself and understanding that nothing is going to happen overnight. And it's just about that constant, even if it's just attempts to move forward, and that mindset of I want to be healthier and I'm going to put effort into trying to be that way. That's the ticket. That's where you want to start. And again, just finding enjoyment in being healthier, and it's about you and not anybody else.
Well, that is absolutely perfect. Well, if anyone has any additional questions, certainly feel free to submit those to the chat box. This has been a really informative conversation. I really appreciate you, Eileen, sending us all of this information. Someone's asking, okay, so we've got a few coming in here. So can Eileen send us her favorite resources? Yeah, we certainly, I'm sure we can do an email after this conversation where the websites you've mentioned. I know we've posted some of them in the chat room, but the websites also. What about apps? I mean, I know there's this huge push from smartwatches to the phones to the apps. Do you have any apps that you prefer when it comes to tracking your food or water intake or anything like that?
Yeah, right. There's so many out there. One that I am a big fan of, and this isn't a plug of any sorts, is I'm a big fan of the Livestrong My Plate app. There's a
Okay.
big database on there of different types of foods, so I like to use that one. But
Okay.
there's a plethora for sure.
So we will certainly send out some of those favorite resources and websites, etc., after the program. Eating late in the evening, good or bad? Does it have an impact on your body?
Well, one thing that tends to happen with late night eating is that it does typically tend to be that mindless eating, on the couch in your sweatpants with, whatever it is, and you're eating it and you don't even realize you're eating it, which is not really a great practice. And then when you think about it at nighttime, what kind of foods are you grabbing? The late night snacks typically aren't classified under the fruit salads and, half a grapefruit. It's nachos and ice cream. And don't get me wrong, those are great treats, but that's what they are. They're treats you have every once in a while. And then you watch the portion size. So, but at the end of the day, what ends up happening is if it's extra calories that you don't need, that's going to result in weight gain.
Okay, that is good to know. Here's a question. Someone asks, how do you balance kids eating and sleeping patterns to align with the parents? I mean, is it, I'm sure I don't have children, but I'm sure it's harder to try to get kids to eat the items you're recommending. Any tips for parents out there who are struggling with their kids to eat vegetables?
Yes. I know I do not have children either, but kind of making it fun. There's ways to involve children, age-appropriate ways to involve children, which kind of creates a sense of accountability and then pride for the child in that, like, I picked that tomato, so I'm going to try it. Involving them in cooking where you can, again, it's age appropriate, but it takes something like 7 to 10 exposures to a type of food before a final decision is made, I guess you could say. So again, be patient, understand that you're the parent, you're doing the best you can, and you're doing the right thing by giving them fruits and vegetables. So if they throw it back at you, don't be offended. But on trudging, you can do it.
7 to 10 tries. Wow, I guess I need to be trying that asparagus a few more times before it really clicks into me really enjoying it. Someone is asking, I play soccer once a week. Is this enough exercise, or should I be doing a little exercise more days in a week? I mean, is that kind of one time for an hour or so a good amount of time to exercise, or should you kind of make sure you're doing that every day?
Recommendations from the American College of Sports Medicine are, and I think CDC as well, we're looking at half hour, 5 days a week of kind of moderate activity. So you can kind of put it in terms of the entire week, I guess, but just overall, it's definitely going to need some activity there in that case. The 1 hour a week, well, that's awesome. I mean, you could even consider doing some weight training or some, kind of drill work. Go to your next match like a football star there. So
that's fantastic. Someone's asking about Pinterest, and saying that they found that to be a really great resource for healthy recipes. Are you on Pinterest? Do you follow any boards that really you find to be useful?
Yes, I'm a big Pinterest fan because, especially like the salads, I know you had mentioned, it's very easy to get burnt out, and you're just looking for inspiration. Eatright.org, there's some great boards there in terms of tried and true dietitian approved recipes and tips and tricks there. But really anything you can find that gets you thinking outside the box, maybe outside of your comfort zone culinary wise, in the healthy direction, of course. That's always a good thing.
Well, that's great. Well, it looks like we've really kind of tackled most of the questions. I want to thank you, Eileen, for being with us today, for sharing all of this great advice, for giving us the inspiration and the encouragement to continue on, even if it gets challenging and sometimes you fall off the wagon. But I really appreciate you sharing this with all of our alumni. As we said, we will send out a link in emails to all of the great things that Eileen spoke about here today. This is also being recorded, so you can share it with friends and family who you think might benefit from the listening and watching the discussion today. I want to thank Eileen for everything that she does for the university, for being a member of our UB Young Alumni Leadership Council, a great volunteer. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Perfect. Thank you all as well for being on the webinar. We look forward to bringing you more of these as the weeks and months go by. So thanks all. Enjoy your weekend, and we will chat with you soon. Be well.